What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're here with Miss Tiffany Banner. Now, if you remember a video probably a while back, at least we had on the channel for a little while before YouTube started censoring videos, and that she had confronted some Mzungus about their actions with children on the beach out there in Tanzania, and we wanted to get her on the show just to ask her about that and how her life is going in Tanzania since she has, walked away from Babylon. So, Tiffany, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. So Tiffany, you are a, young lady, and, to say that you walked away from Babylon at such a young age, we call Babylon United States.
Yes.
What made you say, at such a young age, and really haven't, at least when I was 19, I didn't have any clear direction what I was going to do. At 19, I didn't. What made you say I got to get away from, Babylon?
So I saw the endless cycle of trauma, the endless cycle of abuse, the endless cycle of dysfunction in America. And I decided that I didn't want to put up with it any longer because a cycle continues if you continue in the circle. So I said, you know what, I'm going to break off from the circle and I'm not going to feed into it anymore, because by staying in America, you're continuing that cycle, you're in the circle. So if you want healing and if you want all of that madness, all that dysfunction to end, you have to leave America. America was literally built to break African people in the diaspora and in the homeland. America was built to break African people. So I decided that I was not going to be broken anymore. And I decided I didn't care if I was by myself or how young I am. I decided I was not going to be broken anymore. And I was not going to stay in the dysfunctional circle.
So where did you originally grow up in America?
So I was born in New York, but I grew up in the suburbs of Georgia. It was a very, very, very suburban area. And it was like 70% white. It was horrible.
Okay, so you grew up in a predominantly white community. So with your parents, they basically had decent jobs, correct?
I grew up with my mom, and she was a nurse, so she had a kind of decent job. Yeah.
Okay, grew up with your mom. So high school, your school was also like predominantly white. You went to a black high school.
Yes, the whole thing was predominantly white. The only black school I went to was my preschool, and then I moved to Georgia. And then since then, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school was white and Asian.
Okay, so what if somebody will say, well, why didn't she just eventually move to the black part of Atlanta?
Right. So it's kind of not hard to, but Atlanta is starting to get, not starting, everyone knows that Atlanta is getting gentrified. Like, they're starting to build Whole Foods in Atlanta. And anywhere where they build a Whole Foods, that's when you know that it's just starting to get torn down. And I go to, back when I lived in America, I used to go to Atlanta like on the weekends and stuff. And I could see that the very, very, very few amounts of us were getting replaced by majority of them, which is actually, they're not the majority of anything. They make up, I think, around 10% of the whole planet. So even if I were to move to Atlanta, it would still most likely be predominantly white.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounded like you dealt with some different traumas dealing with the Mzungu. So like, because that led to your decision. So Can you give, like, outside of the police brutality, what other things have you seen in your personal life? You say, you know what, I can't. What else have you seen?
Well, I saw one thing that a lot of people see in America is the broken family system, and how, no matter how much money any family has, it's not, an African family cannot have a functional family in America. Like, if in order to grow up in the suburbs, you have to have a bit of money. So, we had a bit of money, but still our family was not functional. So that's just one thing. And then seeing me growing up in the suburbs, seeing how white people walk around just so casually and like oh, but I'm one of the good ones and stuff like that. It just really goes to show, and also the facts that we fall for it. I fell for it because I used to be very, very brainwashed, but I fell for the whole, oh yeah, you're one of the really good ones. And you have to really think about what happened to us, what happened to our ancestors, and what happened to Africa. There's no such thing as a good white person or any other good Mzungu. So those are just like a few things. There's many things, but those are just a few things from my experience.
Okay, so what if someone says to you, well, Tiffany, you probably just had some bad experiences. You gotta remember we built America, and I don't want to run from America and leave it to them to have that we need to fight in everything. Well, what do you say to those people?
Well, it's definitely not just my experience. Every African person in America experiences trauma. Every African in America cannot have a life. Every African person in America is currently surviving. They're not living. So to answer your question, I think you said, what did you say again? Excuse me.
I say for people, some people may say, okay, Tiffany, well, why you want to leave America? Our ancestors built America. Why you want to leave it to them? Shouldn't you fight and not run? Because they like to say you're running. That's what they say. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you heard that before.
Yes, I've heard that many, many times before. The whole, why are you running from it? Why don't you just go to solve the problems? We've tried to solve the problems many times. We saw with the Black Panther Party. We saw with Black Wall Street. The Black Panther Party was dismembered and Black Wall Street was bombed. So we have to be able to learn from what happened in the past. What everyone's doing, the whole protesting thing, the whole calling the senators, the whole voting, it's a repeating pattern. It's like A, B, A, B, A, B. And then we think, what comes after A? And then one of us says Z. We have to be able to follow the pattern. If we try to build something else, they're just going to destroy it again. So instead of trying to fight for something that cannot be fought for, we just have to say, you know what? Let me go somewhere where I am welcomed, and let me go somewhere where I actually can build something up. So that's what I decided to do. I noticed that it was A, B, A, B, A, B, and then it stopped on A, and I knew that the next one would be B. It wouldn't be some like 3. So that's honestly what every person has to do. Every African person has to do. We have to learn from history, and recognize the pattern, the sick pattern that's going on over there.
Okay, so you said that basically you notice the protesting, you notice the constant cycle. Now, have you seen what's happening in Nigeria right now with the SARS thing, right?
Yes, I have. I think it's the same thing that's happening in America, if I'm being honest. And it's the same thing with saying end SARS in Nigeria and end police brutality in America. All of African people's problems were caused by the white man and caused by Asians and by Arabs and Indians and Chinese and every other Mzungu. So if we want to end anything, we have to end the demonic cycle of white supremacy and all these other Mzungus that have a hold on us, because Africa was never corrupt like this. I like to say Africa is not corrupt. Africa is colonized. So if we want to end the corruption, we have to end the colonization, whether it's in Nigeria or in America. But you can't end it in America because we've tried that too many times and it's not possible. But we can't, if we want to end it in Nigeria, then we have to end colonization, because it's not just, yeah.
And one thing, even in Nigeria, from my research and what I'm learning with that, is that the Mzungu made sure to cause divides even within those countries. So you have the Muslim faction that's in Nigeria, and you have those who aren't Muslim, and they basically want the ones who's holding the power is the Muslim faction, and the Muslim faction do not want to give up power to those of the other tribes in the southern region of Nigeria, who they want to be a little bit more progressive. They don't want to be under, I guess, a form of Sharia law. They wanted to live their life, etc. And
Right.
I always say, just my opinion, the only Islam that I can rock with is NOI Islam. Anything outside of NOI Islam, I can't rock with it because they just do some atrocities.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of times that what people don't understand is that outside of NOI Islam, the other Islam, they were actually taking like the Arabs version of it, right?
Yes, exactly.
And the Arabs was enslaving black people first, before even the Muslims.
Right.
And
Yes.
let me ask you a question about that. Why do you think black people give the Arabs a pass? Like why is it that we on them as much as we on the Mzungu about slavery?
So it is the whole people of color thing. It's the whole, they're brown too, they get oppressed too, which is not true. I think my personal opinion is that I think the Arabs and I think the Chinese are far more dangerous than the white man because they like to hide under the facade of, well, I'm not the white man, he oppressed me too. And honestly, the whole reason why the Chinese man is not on top as the white man is probably just because they weren't as violent as him. They're still, maybe actually they probably are more violent than the white man because they hide behind the whole people of color facade. So while we have Africans in America looking at brown brothers and sisters and looking at the Chinese and looking at the Arabs as, our people of color, the Chinese people are currently raping people in every African country. They're running sex trafficking rings. They own the grocery stores. They're trying to recolonize the whole continent. And the Arabs are running banks. They have schools here. In the city center of Dar es Salaam, there's a school strictly for Arab children. That's because there's so many of them here that they have to have a school for their children to go to. While they go and they run all the businesses and everything, they send their children there. And just to sum up your question, I really think it's the people of color thing. We should not be looking at the white man as the only enemy because everybody, literally every other group on the planet has benefited off of our exploitation. And if you want to learn that, then you have to learn from history. You have to study history. And a lot of us are not studying history. A lot of us just stop at 400 years of enslavement and they don't go past that. In ancient Kemet, we had the Asians, we had the Chinese, we had the Arabs, we had the Europeans walking in and invading and colonizing. So it was everybody, and we have no friends. So, yeah.
Well, that's why at least here and many other, places on our social media platforms who are black, we're not saying the term people of color anymore. We're not saying minorities. We're not saying the term women. We're going to use the terms what they are because I believe that we have to cut off the strings of everybody like just dragging along with us. So you're telling me, well, we have some for people of color. I'm like, well, what is that? I don't know what people of color is. What is that?
Exactly.
Minority. Well, minority can mean a white woman. So what do you mean by minorities? Because but getting, like Dr. King said, getting the language right it's key. And like you said, if that people of color thing, it has been dangerous, and we have been suffering for that people of color thing that you're talking about there. But now you're on the continent and you're seeing the African, they call it the African Youth Spring, because not only in Nigeria, you have Guinea-Bissau, they're having protests. The Anglophone side of Cameroon is having protests. I know in the Congo, my Lord, I've been doing a lot of research in the Congo. Like at least 45,000 people are dying a month in the Congo for their resources. And now people, it's literally trying to genocide people trying to fight back. I mean, what is the tone on the continent right now? All this stuff is going on since you're out there.
Well, in Tanzania, we're not. Honestly, I think most of the focus is happening on the election that's going to be taking place, I believe, October 28th. So a lot of Tanzanians are not really talking about it unless they were going to school in a different country or something. So it's not affecting Tanzania as much, which is a problem because, Umoja, we have to practice unity. But like I said, while we are protesting in the streets, the white man and the Asians and the Arabs and everybody else are still taking advantage of us while we're protesting. So we have to see that they're really working behind the scenes. So they want us to protest. They want us to do this and that to get us distracted. And they want us to say hashtag end SARS when they know that hashtagging or protesting is not going to end SARS. If we want to end SARS, then we have to kick the white man, the Asian man, every Mzungu out of Africa. Then we can end all corruption that is currently happening in the continent.
But you know how it works on a continent, right? I mean, you could kick them out, but this is the thing. They have their puppet leaders. So let's talk about Nigeria. Recently it's come out that the UK has been giving money to Nigeria for SARS. Now, if you go into Nigeria, the white man is not really actively there telling them what to do per se, but what they done after so-called colonization, they put in a puppet leader. So basically, you do what the white man says, and so basically, the leaders, and everybody will tell you that the leaders is the one that's really, you got to start there first, right? Because if you get rid of the leaders, now replace them with another one that's controlled by the Mzungu, but if you get rid of the leaders. So when you think, like, I know you saw the massacre on the Lekki toll, right? I know you saw what happened there, right? In Nigeria.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah, the main thing. Okay, it wasn't a white man that said take the Nigerian military out there and just gun down, people like it ain't nothing. It was Buhari and his governors and all them who said it, which are all black. So see, for me, what I have learned is that we have two problems in the black community globally. We have self-hate, and we have on the outside the racism, right? And a lot of times the self-hate is to me at times is worse than racism, because at least understand on the outside racism, I get it, I understand it, but the self-hate, this is what caused Buhari to go kill his own people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or Nigerians recently found stockpiles of food and money. They just eat from them. While people are suffering in Nigeria, they got the money and they got the food.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the young people are just like, man, F this, man. We sick of this. Like, we living like, it's like that mindset. It's better to die fighting than live my whole life like a slave.
Yeah. So answering your question, there are corrupt leaders, but I always say they were never you're not just born corrupt. They were corrupted by someone, and they were corrupted by Mzungus. So when I say kick out Mzungus, I'm talking about kicking out Mzungu ideologies, kicking out Mzungu spirit, kicking out everything. So that would include kicking out the corrupt leaders and replacing them with a true African, because the people that are running the corrupt countries or corrupted countries, colonized countries, are not Africans. They're literally just puppet Negroes. To have the title as an African, that's an earned title. You cannot just call yourself an African just because you were born in Africa. That is 100% an earned title. So the people that are running the corrupt countries, even though they might have this skin, they're still white. They're still Mzungu, because they have that Mzungu spirit, and they look to the Mzungu as massa. So they try to be as massa. So that's what it's going to have to take. We have to literally physically kick them out, but we also have to mentally and spiritually kick them out as well. And what's happening in Tanzania, the whole reason why we're not wearing masks and we're not doing quarantine or any other corona thing is because Magufuli is not a puppet. He literally tested on an avocado and a few other fruits, and they came back as positive. So from that day on, he said, no more corona, no more anything, and nobody's dying. There's people in the street gathering together. And that's because Corona is a political thing. Corona is literally created by the Mzungus for control of the masses, control of African people. So the whole reason why other countries, especially in West Africa, like Nigeria and Ghana and Gambia, are still wearing masks and doing all that stuff is because they're still following the white man. Tanzania is taking a really big step towards finally stepping away from that. So we need more presidents and we need more African leaders like Julius Nyerere and Magufuli to step up across the whole continent. So that's what it's going to take. Yeah.
Well, I will have it's definitely a reason why coronavirus didn't really touch the African continent. But one thing for sure is that the response on the African continent was better. But I'm here in Babylon. I'm gonna tell you, the coronavirus is a real thing. My daughter even caught it, so it's definitely a real thing. A lot of people in the U.S. are dying from it because of their horrible response. They didn't respond to it right. Africa did. Now I covered the story about he tested it. Everything you said, I covered that, right? About faulty tests and things like that. They said down a lot of people saying that they responded better on the African continent, and the African continent has the youngest population in the world, in which they showed that coronavirus isn't as deadly to younger populations as it is to older populations. Like America has a lot older population, but it's not just that. Is that you had these people in America that you have active outbreaks of coronavirus, and you had these Mzungus that do not want to wear a mask at all. That hygiene is also a big thing with corona, right? And listen, you've been around them long enough. I'm pretty sure you saw it in America.
They're naturally dirty because they stemmed from caves.
Well, I'm gonna say from what I see, some people don't want to wash their hands. I'm gonna leave it at that, right?
Yeah.
And when you have things that's dependent on hygiene, when it's dependent on you just following certain protocols, and due to the rebellious nature of I don't have to follow any rules, the rules only for the Negroes, it's just a perfect storm. So even though the Black community is affected, but I don't know a bunch of Black people per se that's just really just going out like that with corona even here. Yes, I know it attacks pre-existing conditions. I'm just, because like I said, I look at these things, I'm studying it constantly. I got people that's in the medical field, talking to them about it. It's real. But I'm glad that Tanzania, didn't fall underneath that, losing a lot of lives, right? And you guys are open back up, correct? Completely open back up?
Yeah, opened up, I think 3 months ago.
Okay, 3.
And nobody.
But you guys are 100% open.
Yep.
100% open. Okay, how y'all doing with visitors coming into the country, especially do they ban certain people?
No bans. Visitors every day. Nobody's dying. I think the only places that require to wear masks are owned by Mzungus. So the British-owned schools in Tanzania require masks, and the European-owned facility companies require masks, but that's like for companies and stuff. But other than that, there's no masks, there's no quarantine, nothing, nobody. We haven't gotten, I think, like a case in 3 or 4 months or something like that, and it's completely open.
Oh, wow, well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that, but I hope they do a lot of screening, because you can have no cases, but you can get people coming in with it, because you got to watch these people. They'll hear you don't have no cases, and they'll send somebody down there infected to spread it, and then people all of a sudden starting to catch it. But when you done that video originally and posted that about the beach, what kind of backlash are you getting online from that? I know you see some backlash. Of course, you receive a lot of praise, yes. But what kind of backlash are you getting about that video?
So I was getting backlash from Coons and Mzungus. I had a lot of Mzungus commenting, saying, "You're racist, this isn't true." And then I had a lot of Coons saying, "You're just causing problems," and this and that. But I literally did not pay attention, because I know what the truth is, and I know what Mzungu is, and I know what their nature is. So when you have to ring a trumpet, you have to ring it. And a lot of people's eyes were open from that. So even though there were, and obviously the video was taken down, I think within 3 days, or maybe within 3 days to a week. And then I made another video explaining what happened at the beach, and then they took that video down as well. So yes, there was a lot of praise, but there was also a lot of, I don't know what the word to use for it. It's just a lot of people very lost. You could literally spit the truth out to someone and they could still be blind and they could still be deaf. So it was a lot of Mzungus trying to defend themselves, even though they know their true nature. And it was a lot of coons trying to defend Massa. So that's basically what the backlash looks like.
My response to that, and I always say this, I'm like, well, why do you pass up Eastern Europe all day long? Well, all those poor people in Eastern Europe, they don't have crap. Okay. You pass up your own people in Eastern Europe to go down there to the African continent. I always say that if you say you want to help somebody, wouldn't you think you want to help like someone that look like you, someone that understands your culture, your whatever, right? And you have, even from America, they say, oh, we're going to go over there and just help Africans. I say, okay, so you want to so-called help Africans, but you won't help African Americans. You understand?
Right.
Like I say, it's like that's all on purpose, because they pass up their own and they pass up African American people. Even like look at how some of them will adopt Black children. Pay attention where the children comes from. They come from the Caribbean. They come from African nations. They rarely adopt an African American child.
Right.
Because I'm a firm believer of they can actually turn those children's minds to literally have them grow up be white supremacists, literally. But a child that has, let's say, our connection, our lineage, our history, I think they just can't even rock with a child like that too much. That's why they don't want to adopt them or so-called help. It's like nobody's asking you to help. Like I'll tell them, go to Eastern Europe, go to where Melania's from, Slovenia. They're poor as hell out there. And go to all them Eastern Europe countries that's struggling. Go help your people.
Honestly, I think it just gives them a sense of recolonization. So I saw this picture on Instagram. It was of this white woman, and it was a throwback picture to her when she was like a little girl, I think maybe 7 or something. And she took a picture standing underneath the Welcome to Zambia sign. And she was saying that she had been going to Zambia back and forth, basically preparing to become a colonizer since she was a little girl. And now she lives in Zambia, and now she lives in a village or something. So it's honestly just it gives them a sense of recolonization. Their ancestors did it, so they want to be like their ancestors. So they want to fulfill that need, that violent, barbaric need to colonize. And what better way can you colonize a people and a continent than adopting the children, taking them out from where they're from and plopping them in America or plopping them in some European country. So they're completely ripped away from their roots and they have no clue who they are. So, yeah.
But the way you think on the African continent, which we both know, and we're not gonna say both know. Your mindset and the way you think, has that shown things to be difficult for you in Tanzania?
Well, there are a lot of people who are asleep, and it's not necessarily their fault. In America, it is absolutely no excuse to have Mzungu friends or to have a Mzungu boyfriend or to do this and that or to associate with them in any way, shape, or form, because you face them straight on. You face white supremacy straight on. You have police brutality happening all the time. You have the systematic oppression happening all the time in America. So you see it with your own 2 eyes and you experience it with your own self. So there's no excuse for an African in America to not know. But an African in Africa, unfortunately, there are Mzungus here, but there's not as many. And they work behind the scenes. You know, you have a grocery store that's owned by Mzungu and they're all happy and they're all smiley. So when an African walks into the grocery store and the Mzungu smiles and waves, and an African person will smile and wave back, not knowing why is Mzungu running a grocery store in Africa? It's because the education is very limited. And when I say education, I mean education on colonization, education on what the enemy is doing to us. So people here are very, very asleep. But all it takes is to just have one person say, hey, they're really bad, for them to really just start thinking. Because I've had a lot of experiences where I'll literally just say, Hapana Mzungu. And then I'll say, Mzungu's very, very bad. America is very, very bad. And then it's just like that. An African was awakened. So as of now, there are a lot of people that are currently very, very deep asleep. But all it takes is proper education. And what proper education is recognizing who and what the enemy is and what they are capable of and what they have done.
All right, Tiffany. So, you know, now you had all this experience, and I know you're a young lady. You know, definitely talking like you lived some years. And more people maybe more interested in hearing what you got to say. Could you tell people exactly how they can get in contact with you or your YouTube channel, so you can see more things from you?
Yeah, so I do have a YouTube channel. It's just this name. I can't really say it's my name because it's a slave name. But yeah, my YouTube channel is Tiffany Banner, and you can contact me at fortheancestors1@gmail.com. I'll reply to your email. If you're looking to repatriate back to Africa or Tanzania specifically, you can email me. Or you can also send me a DM on Instagram at tiff_12. So those are like the two main ways that people can reach me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll make sure you reach out to Tiffany if you have any questions, especially any you young people that may ask some questions. So she's young like you, and she repatriated, so that she's getting immersed in the culture. So. Tiffany, we definitely thank you for joining us on the show today and spreading your knowledge and also explaining the video.